All right, so we're going to start the movement part of our first Seedling Strength session. And let's see, so you both were at the beta class, so you will recognize most of these moves. We're basically going to do that program with some slight adjustments and a little more information layered in about some of the moves. And what else do I want to say about that? We'll take some time after we do the warm-up here to take any notes that you want to take about the movements. But for now, I'd invite you to just use these moves to connect with your body. And again, bring that kind of curious sense of, what does this thing do? What goes on over here? How does this feel? And as much delight as you can have in how your body responds would be fantastic. So we're going to start in our hands and knees position on the mat. Boop, boop. And we're just going to start exploring the spine. So the first question to ask is, how round is our spine willing to get today? Oops, sorry, that's my phone timer for our break. And then how arched is my spine willing to get? Let me turn that off. So just feeling and exploring for those two extremes, the roundiest rounded roundness that your spine is willing to express, and then the archiest arched archness. And again, make sure you're taking into account the limits of what feels good. You get to decide on any given day how much edge walking you have tolerance for. So you can always keep it a little smaller where it's pleasurable, and know that you're not necessarily going to your end range of motion. That's a totally valid choice. Next time you get into that arched shape with your head lifted and your tailbone lifted, pause. And now let's add that snake through the vertebrae. So we're going to keep exploring those two shapes, but now we're going to try to move one segment at a time through our spine, starting at the tailbone. So tuck that tail under. Sometimes it's helpful to imagine you have like a long monkey tail that's curling up underneath through your legs towards your belly button. And then travel that motion up your spine, giving each vertebra the invitation to participate. Some of them will decline your invitation, but I'd like you to extend it nonetheless. Once you get fully round, including your neck, pause, take a breath if you haven't lately, and then start again at your tailbone. Send your tailbone up in the air and bring that arch like a wave or a snake through the spine, inviting each segment to participate. Keep playing with this at your own pace, moving at the speed of your awareness, initiating at the tail, and then being really curious. Which segments of my spine are willing to participate in this action, and which ones aren't? There are going to be spots where you send the invitation and it's like a no cell service zone. Nobody responds. That's okay. That's part of being human. But it's useful information to start to understand where those are, so that when we want more physical capacity, we can start to fill in those no cell service zones. That's really the first layer of strength. About 45 more seconds here. If you need to come down to your forearms, if your wrists are done with this, do it. Or if you personally just feel done with this exploration, you can also just be done. That's okay too. Breathing in there somewhere. Lovely. Okay, let that go. And come to any position, seated, standing, what have you, that lets your spine be relatively upright but gives your wrists a break. We're just going to do some neck circles. So you're going to think about leading with your chin to draw the circle. So the chin will come down towards the chest, and then you're going to trace over towards your right shoulder. Trace a rainbow across the ceiling, leading with your chin point. Trace along that left collarbone and come back to center. Pause there and then reverse direction. So that's the basic idea, right? We're just making some exploratory circles, alternating directions. And see what it's like to really lead with the chin. Sometimes it's helpful to imagine like your chin has a laser pointer coming out of it. Cat parents will really appreciate this metaphor. And you're pointing that laser pointer at the wall and around the room. And then sensation-wise, we want to feel for pleasant stretches in as many directions as possible. Mm. Good. And then let that go. So yeah, all of these circular motions and kind of what we're aiming at in our warm-up, we're doing a couple different things. One, we're reacquainting our nervous system with the map of what each body part can do. So that one's a great example. We're really trying to say, what is this neck thing capable of? And reacquaint and kind of re-upload that new information to our central nervous system so that the nervous system can make better decisions about how we move later in our practice. We're also nourishing the connective tissues of the joints of the neck. Same thing for that spine snake that we just did. We're literally delivering nutrition at a cellular level to all the connective tissues that run in the spine. So all the little facet joints, the discs in between, all of those don't get nourished unless they get movement, because that's what pumps it in. So super, super important for longevity. So next we're going to do a little movement of the shoulder blades. We're going to come back to that quadruped position, hands and knees, but now play around with setting your hands slightly wider than your armpits, and maybe the fingers want to point out and that feels good. Maybe the fingers want to point forward. Totally up to you. See what feels the yummiest for your wrists. And then from here, you're going to squeeze your shoulder blades in towards the spine, which will bring your chest down towards the floor a bit. And then do the opposite. Push your shoulder blades away from the spine, which will move your chest up away from the floor. And just explore that range. How much can you squeeze your shoulder blades in towards the spine? And then how far apart can you press those shoulder blades? Hint, further than you think. There's usually a little more. Yeah. And just keep exploring there. So we're exploring for range of motion. And let's start to layer onto that you're exploring for what muscles are helping with this action. So when you squeeze your shoulder blades together, pause and ask for more, and see what muscle fibers you can feel waking up and helping with that job. Same thing as you push your shoulder blades apart, pause where it feels like no more movement is possible, ask for a little more. You won't necessarily get more range of motion, but you might feel, oh, those are the muscles that are helping to really push my shoulder blades apart. Keep exploring just this, taking your own timing to investigate at those edges, breathing in there somewhere. And then let that go. And again, grab just like a comfy seated position. I fold my knees up like this, but if that's not comfortable for you, please sit any way that feels good. And we'll just circle our wrists a little bit. So you're gonna make a gentle fist, and you're gonna make some wrist circles in one direction. You can keep going in whatever direction you picked. There might be crunchy bits. Mine definitely have crunchy bits. Yeah, and then reverse direction. So again, this is like circular motion is a really great way to feed the connective tissue of your joints. And this is an easy thing to pepper in throughout your day as a little like movement break. I do these all the time, especially when I realize I've been like clutching my phone or something. I'll just pause. Sometimes I'll do one side at a time, get some circles in there, get some new blood flowing, get that lymph flowing. So we're gonna take, oh yeah, while we're seated, let's do this next one. So we did shoulder blades together and apart. That's one of their major movements that's possible. The other one is up and down, shrug, anti-shrug. So just with your arms like comfortably by your sides, let's sample that one. So you're gonna draw your shoulder blades up like a shrug, and then pull your shoulder blades down in an anti-shrug. This might feel like a stretch on the sides of the neck. And just explore what's possible for you in this range of motion. Smooth and controlled. Again, the goal here is to acquaint the nervous system with what's available. And the best way we can do that is to move under our own effort or control. So not letting momentum do any of our work for us, but actually using our own conscious strength to move the shoulder blades. That's what communicates most clearly to the central nervous system and helps it update that map of what's possible within the body. Lovely. Okay, so now we're going to try to put those movements of the shoulder blade that we explored separately together to form something of a circle. So Carissa actually called this out at the beta class. If you think about like a compass rose, you've got those axes, and then we're going to try to connect the dots in a circle. So for the shoulder blades, let's start with that shrug. There's our up. Then we're going to squeeze in towards the spine. Slide down, staying tight to the spine as best you can, and then spread wide at the bottom. Stay wide to come up. Squeeze in at the top. Yeah. So opening up the chest, squeezing the spine, slide down, and spread wide at the bottom. Up like a shrug, into the spine, down, and wide. Don't think too hard about it, just reverse. In, up, wide, and down, in, up. You don't have to match my pace. I'm just kind of feeding the actions in since this is new to give you a little like breadcrumb trail to follow, but please take this at your own pace. In, up, wide, and down, and relax. Yeah. So just naming that, like, sometimes putting these movements together in a circle at first feels like patting your head and rubbing your tummy at the same time. If that's you, you're totally on track. Practice the up, down, together, apart until that feels smooth, and then the circle will start to feel smooth as well. This is another aspect of that kind of map upgrade of the nervous system that we were talking about. Movement of a particular joint or body part creates a richer map for the nervous system to understand. So sometimes when we encounter a movement task, like making a circle with our shoulder blades, which is just like an arbitrary movement task, the nervous system might not be able to accommodate that request because the map is pretty blurry of that area. As more movement happens in that area, suddenly you've like basted it enough times in awareness sauce that all of a sudden your nervous system will be like, oh, a circle. I get it. But the only way we do that is by moving the best we can in that area. It's not like you're dumb, you're not getting it right. It's like literally the communication isn't happening. The map isn't built out. And the way we build that map is through movement. So this is why it extra like irritates me that the culture is so like, well, if you can't get it right, don't do it at all. That kind of all or nothing mentality that so many of us named. It's so detrimental to actually facilitating motor learning. Like we need to move in order to acquire physical skills. Anyway, that was my soapbox moment for the day. Okay. I'm going to come in for a second because I saw something in the chat, but I can't actually read it from over there. Feel free to also unmute and just say things. Where can I buy awareness sauce in bulk? It's not purchasable per se. But for movement stuff, it's like the more small doses over time that you can give your body, the better, right? So if there's a particular part of your body, let's say the wrist is a great example, that's in pain, maybe not moving very well, the more times a day you can move it through its pain-free range, the more you're every time it's a based, you're getting that awareness sauce basted on there. And so over time, we'll start to have more possibilities and more clarity about what's there. Particularly with things that are like low-key injured, right? They kind of hurt, but it's not like an acute thing. Moving within the pain-free range can stave off like greater injury / help your nervous system understand what is possible at that area, even while you're having the kind of like thing.
Okay, can I say